Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joy-Filled Universe podcast. I am your host, Lisa Ryan, and today we are going to be talking about something that, to be honest, I'm not naturally very good at. And I'm just going to say that towards the end of 2025, I learned that getting more sleep does not necessarily mean that we are getting more rest. That's right. Rest and sleep are not the same thing. So for today's episode, we are talking about that most delicious way to recharge our body, and that is through rest. And one of the reasons I decided to create today's pod is because in 2026, I have made a personal commitment towards making rest a priority. Now, if you are anything like me, rest can feel complicated, not because we don't want it, but because we're often conditioned to believe that productivity equals worth and value and accomplishment, right? What's that saying? It goes, oh yeah, you snooze, you lose. And the very thought of slowing down feels to me like that main ingredient in the falling behind recipe. So in 2025, which was that number 9 snake year energy that truly exhausted me, but it was over those holidays in December that I did some research on rest. And while doing this, I came across a TED Talk by a lady named Saundra Dalton-Smith, and it was about rest. And she is also, by the way, the author of the book called The Sacred Rest. Now, Saundra explained that there are many forms of rest, and many of us are sleeping but still waking up exhausted. And this is because there are about 7 different types of rest that our bodies need. Sleep, of course, is definitely one of them. Yet, if we aren't ticking off the boxes in the other areas, a level of exhaustion will eventually sneak right up on us. So today, I want to walk through the 7 types of rest that I have learned about and explain what they are and talk about how we can begin practicing them in our everyday lives. Because rest is certainly not laziness. It is restoration. It's a power source that we can all use and we all need in order to stay on our high vibe and to live our best lives. So let's kick it off with physical rest, because this is one that most of us think about first. Physical rest includes things like sleep, naps, and giving the body time to recover. But it can also include active forms of rest like stretching, gentle yoga, walking, or massage. Basically, this can help release tension and it can restore the body. So if we notice our bodies feeling heavy or sore or fatigued, then what we might need is physical restoration. For me personally, this year, I'm really trying to listen to my body more. If my energy dips, instead of pushing through, I'm practicing asking myself, what would it look like for me to restore my body through rest? And the answer could be going to bed earlier, which I'm actually trying to do. That's a 2026 habit for me. Monday through Friday, I'm in bed by 9:30 each night. That gets me a full 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and I love that for me. Physical rest can also be taking a short walk outside and intentionally breathing in the fresh, clean air, or even just sitting in silence on the sofa or a park bench and reading a book or even journaling. These are all forms of physical rest and can help to release stress from our bodies. Okay, the next kind of rest, and these are not in any specific order. I just want to put that in there. I'm just going with the flow here. So let's talk about mental rest, right? Mental rest is for the overthinking brain that just won't turn off, especially at night. And I bet many of us have experienced this. We get ready for bed, we're excited for a good night's sleep, and then we toss and we turn because our mind is running through the day that we just had, or it's scrolling through the to-do list for tomorrow, replaying conversations that we might have had, thinking about the weekend ahead, trying to make mental notes of things to remember in the morning. All of this leads to mental fatigue. Yet, if we practice giving our bodies mental rest, we are giving our minds the space to reset. And some ways to practice mental rest include taking short breaks during the day. Every couple of hours, get up and take a lap around your office or your home or like the area of your neighborhood outside, wherever you can. Take a break and take a lap. Get up and move your body. Another thing is put a pad and paper, like a notepad and a pen, next to your bed. So when our brain keeps thinking, write down the actions or the to-dos so that our brains can release them, knowing that the tasks have been captured and we won't forget them in the morning. And then lastly, meditation. It is always an excellent way to quiet our minds. And meditation comes in so many different types and forms. It's whatever brings you peace, quiets your mind, and brings you into the present. And even, I'm just going to say, another thing is a 1 to 2 minute pause between tasks during our days. This can also make a really big difference. All of these are ways that we can quiet our minds. No thoughts, no stories running through our heads, just being present and affording space to just be. And I'm just going to say that I have personally been taking short breaks during my days. I have figured out that this filtered water cooler is located literally 1/10 of a mile away from my desk. So I brought like a smaller water bottle with me so that I can empty it quicker, which means that I am strolling to the water fountain or the bathroom or both about 5 to 7 times a day. It takes me mere minutes to do, but it gets me up and moving, and I clear my mind while I'm doing it. It has truly made a difference for me from like the focus perspective and from a mood perspective too. So I highly recommend this form of rest. Especially when you're having a busy day. Okay, so let's see. Moving right along, the next kind of rest is sensory rest. And this one is incredibly relevant to our modern world. And we kind of touched on this without labeling it in the podcast episode we did about our cell phones. That was just a little bit ago. Was it like 2 episodes ago? I can't remember. Anyway, it was in the very recent past. So as we know, our senses are constantly stimulated, whether it's our phones, device monitors, televisions, notifications, lights, traffic, noise, emails, text, social media. There's so much, and it is a lot. And because of this, our nervous systems rarely get a break. However, we can practice sensory reset by turning off notifications, taking breaks from screens, right? Like we discussed, turn off devices an hour before bed and an hour after we wake up. We could sit in a quiet room. We could spend time quietly in nature, enjoying the calm that it brings. We could spend time snuggling our fur baby, even just closing our eyes for a few minutes. All of this can really make a difference. And sensory, if you didn't know, means reducing the input. So if we stop, or at least try to slow the inflow of information, and simply create some silence and stillness, we are doing wonders for our nervous system, and our bodies will thank us for it too. All right, let's see. Number 4 is creative rest. Now, this one is really interesting because creative rest is not about stopping creativity. It's about replenishing it. If you are like me and you're someone who routinely does things like solving problems, creating ideas and thinking outside of the box, leading people, designing things, or building visions, our creativity can become depleted. And to allow for our incredible creativity to continue to flow, we need to afford ourselves some creative rest, which happens when we experience beauty and inspiration without needing to produce anything. So this may show up like sitting in nature and watching the leaves on the trees as the wind blows, or sitting by a body of water and watching the waves, visiting an art museum, listening to music, or looking at beautiful architecture or landscapes, or even just catching a sunrise and a sunset. Creative rest is about allowing our minds to receive inspiration instead of constantly generating it. And I personally do this by creating an office space that isn't just blank walls. I have pictures hanging up that bring me joy. I have little tchotchke gifts that I've received from people that make me smile. I have lots of color all around me, as well as a vision board that feels so inspiring. All of this allows for a space where creativity naturally flows, which is all absolutely creative rest. Now, how about emotional rest? Yeah, this one is so powerful. Emotional rest means giving ourselves permission to be authentic and honest about how we feel. Many of us spend a lot of energy managing emotions, holding things together, staying strong, or putting on a brave face. And if we are that person who is always there for people that we care about, and sometimes even there for the strangers that we might meet when we're out and about, if we are the person that many like to ask a favor of and we rarely ever, if ever, say no, if we are the person who is always showing up for others regardless, holding things together, being the shoulder to lean on, and putting on a happy face, if we happen to be this kind of remarkable human, it can become exhausting. And we can also sometimes feel like all of this effort isn't being recognized or appreciated. And it is then that we start to notice that we are being deprived of emotional rest. Now, the way that emotional rest can be practiced is expressing how we truly feel, talking openly with trusted people, releasing emotions instead of suppressing them, and having boundaries and not always feeling as though we have to say yes, and allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others. Sometimes the most restorative thing that we can do is say, I'm tired. This is hard. I need support. There is enormous freedom that comes from emotional honesty. And with that freedom comes some much deserved rest. Okay, moving right along. In fact, how many more do I want? Okay, we have 2 more. So, next type of rest is social rest. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean isolating ourselves from other people. Instead, it means being intentional about who we spend our time with. And we have relationships that totally energize us, and we also have relationships that can completely drain us. So the way we achieve social rest is by spending time with people who support us, uplift us, accept us as we are, and leave us feeling lighter rather than heavier. And it is also giving ourselves permission to step back from interactions and exchanges with others that feel exhausting. Again, nothing wrong with setting healthy boundaries here, which in turn then leads to some incredible restorative social rest. And then last but not least is spiritual rest. Spiritual rest is about feeling connected to something greater than ourselves. For some people, that might mean faith or prayer or religious practice. For others, it may mean meditation, nature, purpose-driven work, or service to others. Spiritual rest is something that helps us reconnect with meaning and belonging. It reminds us that we are part of something larger than our daily responsibilities. And when we have this feeling of connection to purpose, it can restore our energy in a very deep and soulful kind of way. And so that's it. That's the 7 forms of rest: physical, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, social, and spiritual. So the next time we feel compelled to say, "I'm so tired," perhaps we need to dig a little deeper with a whole lot of curiosity to decide whether or not it's our minds that are feeling overwhelmed, our senses maybe overstimulated, our creativity feeling depleted, our emotions needing space, our relationships needing boundaries, or our spirit needing reconnection. So when we are feeling tired, or even if we're not, one of the best questions we can ask ourselves on a routine basis is, what type of rest do I actually need right now? Because rest should not be something that we earn after we achieve exhaustion or burnout. Rest is something we should practice routinely so that burnout doesn't happen in the first place. And guess what? We don't have to be exhausted to rest. Rather, get ahead of it and make rest a habit. Set a standard bedtime and stick to it. Let's give ourselves designated times during the day to quiet our minds. Let's put our devices down, turn off notifications, and give ourselves some peace and quiet. Let's create a space that brings us joy and feels inspiring and creative. Let's allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others and express how we truly feel. Let's set up boundaries and shield ourselves from the energy vampires that are out there. And lastly, let's allow for the space and opportunity to connect with something greater than ourselves in ways that speak peacefully to our souls. Rest isn't just sleeping. It's truly taking care of our bodies in many different ways. So if you have been feeling exhausted or overwhelmed or depleted of your high vibe energy, I genuinely invite you to gently ask yourself, which type of rest do I need most right now? And whether it's sleep, quiet, creativity, honesty, connection, whatever it may be, let's give ourselves the permission to receive the rest that our bodies deserve. Because when we restore ourselves, we don't just feel better. We show up in the world with more presence, more joy, more creativity, and more love. And that benefits not just us, but everyone around us. And as Saundra Dalton-Smith has said, rest is not a reward you earn after finishing everything. Rest is a requirement for doing your best work. So take some time this week, please, and give yourself some deserved rest. I have been practicing almost all 7 of these on a daily basis, and I can truly feel the difference in all of the very best ways. And that happens to be, my friends, a very relaxing wrap for this week. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, well, as I often say, please share it with a friend, rate, follow the show, and even leave a review. All of this is so super helpful, and I am forever grateful for your time as you listen, and also it just helps a girl out here, and it is extra appreciated. So thank you so very much. And on that note, I am your host, Lisa Ryan. This is the Joy-Filled Universe podcast, where we explore all the tools and tricks that are going to make your universe even more joyful than it already is. And I will see you next week. Bye.